Similarly to while, you can have a for loop, which is very similar, but a for loop is specifically made for counting. And you define three things in it. You define first what the value is equal to, then you say where it's supposed to end, as long as it is less than 24. And then what are you going to do with each step? You're going to increase it by 1. So this is a very specialized kind that is made just for counting. And what this is going to do is going to keep running this loop this many times. In this case, it's going to run it 16 times, 17 times, however many until it reaches the number 24, and that's going to stop running. Within this, you can refer to that variable, whatever you define the variable as. You don't have to refer to it as that. You can simply count it. If there's 4 people here in the room, and I want to say, hello student, hello student, hello student, hello student, I can do that. I don't have to refer to the variable. But that's how you do it, something a specific set number of times without, I guess it's like I said, it's a specialized form of while. While loops can be used to do a whole lot of different things. For loops are used just for counting. And you can also count down with them as well. If you don't define it, like if I set as this, it's going to run forever. Because in this case, I'm subtracting n each time. So I'm starting at an 8, the second iteration is going to be equal to 7, then it's going to be equal to 6. It's going to keep going down and down and down, so it's always going to be less than 24. And so it's just going to run infinitely. So be careful of that. Another kind that is very helpful is for each, and it's specifically designed for arrays. You'll use this one all the time once you start getting used to working with arrays. For each, we'll step through the elements in the array. So up here we have names. We have 4 of them. A names, and here we're defining the key and the value. You can call them whatever you want them to be. So in this case, let's go with first, last. Within this, back up a little bit so you can still see that up there. Within these 2 brackets, I will be able to call on each element in this array. It's going to run through the array as long as it's got elements. So in this case, it's going to run through 4 times, and I can refer to as first and as last. So I can say hello Travis, space Rex, line break, hello Marianne, space Seville, hello Joe, space Parisi, hello Mike, space Tompkins, and then it'll stop. And this is very useful for when you're pulling out information out of a database. Like I said, you're pulling out 50 records, and you're going to for each through that set of records. Each time you encounter one, you're going to do this with it. You're going to echo another line in a chart. You're going to echo another word in a sentence. You're going to echo whatever. This is the power of PHP. This is what takes it above and beyond HTML. Because if you want, I mean, what good really are just strings by themselves? They're just words on a line. You can just type that in HTML. But when you get into the power of being able to do something multiple times, that's where it becomes advantageous to start using PHP. Arrays are what really make PHP powerful. Because now you're doing 100 times as much work, or 500 times, or however many times. In Joe's case, millions of times for dialogue signups, all with 1 line of code, or however many lines you need to type here. If you, by default, for each loop will only run on the value. It doesn't usually concern itself with the key, so you'll often see it defined this way. It's only if you actually specify the key and then an equal sign or greater than that it will concern itself with the key. Because, like I said, by default, arrays take this form where you're only defining value pairs. Or you're only defining values, you're not bothering to define the keys. The keys are usually just numerical integers. You're not worried about them most of the time. One thing I didn't mention about arrays to help clarify is that every key is unique. It has to be unique. It can't. If you have other mics, what's another mic in the company?
I don't think so.
Do we have another Joe?
No.
I have another
2
Joe?
Lisas.
Okay, so if we have Lisa is equal to Hill, And then later on, we try to define Lisa is equal to Belugi. It's going to overwrite the first Lisa, and it's going to set it to Belugi at that point. We can have two values in here if we have Rachel Tompkins. So we have a value of Mike, which is equal to Tompkins, and we have a value of Rachel, which is equal to Tompkins. That's fine. But if I were to refer to another Rachel, we just hired a Rachel root over in data. At this point, the first Rachel is overwritten with the second Rachel. So every key in it is unique. That's why when you create just a basic array that doesn't have specified keys, that's why it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because it wants to make sure each one is unique.
You have two keys where you have like the first, middle, and last name.
Sure. So if you're just go that way.
Just do the equal, greater than. Okay.
We'll get into databases next week, but in almost all databases, it helps to have an ID field, which is a unique number that's applied to each record. And then when you pull it out and put it into an array, the ID is usually the key of that record in the array. So I'm pulling out a list of people that have signed up for whatever. Each one is going to be defined as a number in the system to make sure that there's no confusion, that I'm not overwriting two people of the same name. That's okay. You guys are pretty good and have a lot of questions. I hope I'm not going too fast.
No, you did good.
I noticed you're using a lot of brackets, and then in CSS they use parentheses, right? It's like, why is this reason?
Why are they different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's different, but someone just say, let's do it that way.
It's the way it was written.
Yeah.
Everyone has slightly different syntax. That's the thing about coding languages is they're almost all basically the same as to what they do, but they're just spelled differently.
It's not.
Yeah, it's like human languages.
Right.
We can
Like
speak
the-
Spanish or French or whatever. We're saying the same thing, but the words are slightly different.
It's just.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
And like I said, PHP is very loose. You can define things differently here at Miles Media. We tend to put the first squiggly bracket on the second line. Most of the developers consider that easier to read. JP and Evgeny were the ones who usually did that. I personally prefer to put it on the same line. I think that's easier to read. Doesn't really matter. PHP can read it both ways.
So this is the standards of how you have to write the code in here, or no?
No.
So there's no need to do it like a.
It's a matter of personal preference. And like I said, I think you missed the very beginning, but different developers working together at the same company, usually it helps to agree on one standard way of formatting things.
Sorry.
But
Well,
when
because we
you're,
have a standards in print, so I was just thinking,
Right.
I'm assuming, okay.
but there's no like Chicago style manual for formatting PHP.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that.
Right.
You're the only, when it's your site, you're the only one looking at the code. So what makes sense to you and formatting it your way is perfectly fine. As long as it runs on the server, it doesn't matter.
And
And
use
that's-
comments to comment your errors out and all that.
Mhm. And that's really one of the wonderful things about PHP. When you're just making HTML, you have to worry about all these different cross-browser things. Somebody's looking at Firefox, somebody's looking at IE, somebody's looking at Safari. They're going to see three slightly different things. PHP runs on the server. It's always running on the server, no matter who's requesting it, where they are, what they're running, whatever. So you're always going to send the same thing back to them. Now, they may see it differently because they format HTML differently in their browser, but you know that, if n hour equals 8, it's always going to equal 8 no matter who's looking at it. That's always going to run the same, and it's a wonderful thing about PHP is you don't have to worry about those kinds of inconsistencies. And as long as it's working for you, it's going to work for everybody. The caveat to that is when you get into very complex systems, maybe somebody is, if it's cookie based and you're so used to writing something for somebody who's logged in as a user, and you're reading what the cookie is, they're logged in as this, and then if you forget to code a case for somebody who's not logged in or something like that. But that's advanced stuff.
Cool.
Susan? We're so ahead of schedule. This is cool.
Yeah. That's.
The HTML class was
Even though.
very, not slow, but people have a lot of questions and there's a lot
Yeah.
to go over and so on. And that's one. You guys are totally good. This is cool. This is cool.
Great.
Or we were not getting it, we just want to ask.
Or yeah, maybe you don't have any questions.
No, it's.
I have no clue what you're doing. Now you put that. I'm assuming you have. Eventually we'll show how you combine that with HTML to the things.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's all interchangeable. And so, like up here, we're actually echoing a line to the screen. Hello, it's something o'clock. I'm going to repeat that for 8, 9, 10. I'm going to repeat that up until 23 and then stop running. So within this line, I've already put in a BR tag. I can start putting in, bold tags around the words if I want to. You put HTML right in there. Ultimately, the end result of all PHP is to echo some HTML to the
Yeah.
screen.